Thank you for joining, guys, today and for your time. So, as we just mentioned, this is going to be recorded. If you feel like anything should be cut out of the replay, let us know and we can cut it out. And I'll be very brief for the introduction. I'm quite excited to be with you guys around the table. There is quite a bit of, I don't know if some of you know each other. There is quite a bit of talent around the table. And we had quite a few discussions around MBTI, brain imaging, stuff like this. And the idea today is to basically just get to know each other and start maybe start a conversation for people who want to go further. And we'll have a look at Andreas, who has been working a lot on things we call neuromarkers, will share with us what we are looking at today, what has been created in terms of something we now call reflective neuroscience. For those of you who had like brain scans in like 2020, 2021, 2022, things might have changed. So, well, we'll get to discover what's new. So feel free, this is really your space. Feel free to interrupt, feel free to ask questions, anything, well, feel free to be, make yourself at home. The idea is to have a conversation so you can express yourself. All right. And is anyone trying to join? Madison. Okay. And I'll let you introduce that conversation today, Andreas. And Andreas is the mind and the heart behind all these crazy neuromarker explorations. Yeah.
Okay, so I can start here. All right, welcome everyone. Some of you I know already, some of you are new for me. I just want to give you a little bit of a summary of what we did now in a little bit less than 1 year. And especially I want to highlight what is so strong about what we created. So it's not just like a simple brain imaging and creating a report, but there is much more behind. And I think that needs a little bit of highlighting. So this picture basically represents.
Thank you. You can just move the screen over so that we can see the slides.
Yeah. Sorry. So was not even aware that you see this too. This picture reflects what we are trying to do. And when I started to create this, for me, it was very important that we have a neuroscience-based report. What you do in neuroscience is, of course, you're trying to use literature which is out there, but also what is very important for me is that we have a type of a validation. So we need to validate what we record, because what we do, this is very modern. It's not really existing often in the world, and it's very unique. Therefore, I decided when we started with this also to not just collect only a brain scan of a person, but also the psychological data. And we went for the Big Five, because the Big Five, it has a lot of science base. So there are many papers out there which do brain recording and compare it to the Big Five. And this is a very good way to start to see if what we do makes sense, is in alignment with the literature. And of course, high data quality is very important to us. So EEG is a tool which is very sensitive. There is a lot of noise around us, muscle artifacts and movement artifacts. And therefore, we decided to go for measure people in resting state, but also to clean the data before we analyze it, to basically reduce the artifact as much as we can. And this is also very exciting. So we have created our own internal database. And so it's not just that you do a scan and the scan lands maybe on the server and it's forgotten. We want to create a big picture over the years. The more people we collect, the better we are going to understand, and the better we can work with this and create better moments of reflection. And of course, we want to have everything done in accessible language. So neuroscience is complex, and we don't want that you need a PhD to understand what we are doing. So we isolated this 50 neuromarkers from science, and in order that you understand what a neuromarker is, I decided today that I'm going to show you one example. Okay, so let me jump to one paper we were using to create one neuromarker. And this one is called Cortical Traveling Waves Relate to Variation in Personality Traits. And it's very new. It's from 2025. So it's a very new phenomenon which is investigated here. Waves which travel across the cortex. And what the scientists did here is they measured people during resting state. That means people were sitting there doing basically nothing, just where the brain goes, and that's what they measured. And especially, they looked at these traveling waves in the midline electrodes. So the alpha wave arises here at the front of the brain and then travels back along the occipital lobe. And what they found is that people who have more of these backward traveling alpha waves, they have a higher correlation with the personality trait openness. So this is one big 5 trait. And if they dug a little bit deeper, then you could see that it's especially correlating with a subfacet of openness, which is the intellect. So this is like gold for our analysis. So how do we create a neuromarker out of this? It's very intuitive. We check out the paper, we replicate the same analysis, and then we just, instead of calling it traveling waves, we give it a pop science name, which is internal modeling. Why? Because these backward traveling waves, they are also associated with predictive coding. This is a phenomenon in neuroscience, which means that we are trying to create models of the world constantly and trying to anticipate what is coming next. So we have this analysis, and then what we start doing is we measure people in resting state, and we collect the Big 5 questionnaire, and we measure also the brain, of course. And what do we find? And this is very important for us because, of course, we want to validate stuff. We want to basically not just go scan by scan and create a story. We also want to be sure that what we do really reflects what we see in science, but also with personality traits. So on the left side, you see the data from the paper. And on the right side, you can see part of our data bank. So here are all the neuromarkers for the openness to experience trait. These are all the subfacets here. And these are the different neuromarkers that we associated to openness to experience. And if you look at the internal modeling, this was the marker we isolated. And you go to, first of all, you can see we have a similar, a bit stronger correlation than they found in the paper. And if you look at the subfacet of intellect, it's also high. So this is really exciting because we can then also click in our internal database on this square, and then we land exactly on the client to a single client correlation. And each of these dots is basically a person we measured. And so we can see in live how this correlation change, and every new person who comes in might change the picture, but it gives us a live update. And this is what I'm talking about. And this is basically the full picture what we have nowadays. So you can see on the top, these are all our 50 neuromarkers here. And we correlate them with all the Big 5 traits and subtraits. So you can go to one subtrait, you can look at imagination or emotionality, and which neuromarker correlates the strongest here. And this is extremely potent, and I'm super excited about this because if we collect, up to 500 people, we have here an extremely strong tool to start with. And coming to the next question is, so what do we do with this 50 neuromarkers? We created different reports to create reflective experiences. And one question is, how do I see myself? It's very important to get a perspective about what is my self-perception and what is the prediction of the EEG when we measure the brain. And this is one way of report. We call it psychology versus biology. And here you can see a client who did the self questionnaire for the Big 5. It landed here. And then you have something like the EEG prediction, which is a little bit different and a little bit off. And then you can think about, okay, is this really how I perceive myself, and so on. So it's a good layer for reflection. The next question would be, where do I put my awareness? And this is extremely important because whenever we want to change in life, first we need to put the focus at the right place. Otherwise, if we don't see our shadow sides, we cannot change them. And this is why I created also the archetyper. This is not yet online. We're heavily working on this and we're testing it out. It's extremely exciting because it gives you a very potent reflection of your shadow sides. This is what I'm using it now the most. But you can also use it for teams or for couples. And you get associated to one of these quadrants. And you also get different sub or secondary styles. But I don't have time today to go deeper into this analysis. Why we are here is, yes, that we are wondering how we relate the neuromarkers to the MBTI. And especially, I'm super excited about how to see how they relate to the cognitive functions. But especially also what your idea is and what your interest is today. And I would love to hear about this in the free discussion. So this was my introduction a little bit. If you have questions, you can always write me per email or you can ask them after. And I'm very excited if someone is interested in the different reports, then feel free to contact me or Adrian or also Kara. We are all working with them. Yeah, that's it from my side.
And can we ask our questions right now, Andreas, if you have one?
Yes, you can ask questions, of course. Questions are always ready.
Yeah, I had one about, you mentioned that it can be used with couples. Like in what way, have you used it with couples?
So we're not heavily testing this right now. It's more like that Kara and we measured a few couples and we look into their brains. And what it's very exciting is that if you think where most couples have problems when it goes into communication, your brain is at a certain, you have a certain idea, a certain expectation, how you communicate, the other person does something different. And it's really exciting to see that based on this neuromarker, we can highlight this. We can basically highlight that this person might be a little bit more perceptive to certain stimuli in the world. So it's not so easy to turn off. So you maybe have a more tendency, maybe, for example, to go into people pleasing, to go into be less dominant. So maybe you avoid conflict, you're a bit more avoidant or anxious, whereas other people have it more easy to turn off this incoming information. So they're more dominant and they have more energy. So they're more like outward going. So with this neuromarker, we can look into these scenarios and use them to have a layout, how people might interact, how the dynamic is between two people here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I was thinking. It might be along those kind of lines. And yeah, thank you very much. That was really interesting.
And one thing that can be interesting today, one complexity when we talk about types and brain imaging, it can be a lot of data. And today we have the tools, if you use AI or just using the regular web tools, we can make simple visualizations and simple insights where people, like, for example, two couples could visually see themselves, like where they stand, as if you are using the DISC, for example, the DISC assessment, but using like brain imaging data, which adds a whole different consciousness level, to the insights. Yeah. All right. And before we move to the next part, and Kara, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was just asking if you're ready for our icebreaker here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Andreas. That was really fun to get the overview and to just see how this is all coming together. Our team's been working together for about a year, and the pace at which everything has been being created and implementing and evolving, it's just super exciting for me. I happen to be an ENXP, the T and the F. What I love about our product is that it's really helped me to understand why, in certain lenses, I can really be an ENFP, and in certain lenses, an ENTP, probably an ENTP. But what I bring to the team is clinical experience. I'm a medical doctor that also is a certified Enneagram typologist, as well as done all the curriculum with Personality Hacker. I think that many of us know them, except advanced profiling, and have been to several live events and came to learn about all of this through Dario Nardi's Tools for the Future training, and have done 150 EEGs in the last 2.5 years, and specifically switched to this protocol that Andreas and Adrian have created about 8-9 months ago. And I've done about 60 to 70 scans now with this protocol. So I would say that the experience that I now have with both the technical things about doing the scans, as well as using these with my coaching clients. I just keep on uncovering new ways that we can use this. And the fact that we have 55 neuromarkers that give us a view of the personality from A to Z really gives us so much nuance, so much depth, and so much ability to really see deeper into the experiences of our clients and whoever it is that we're using this tool on. So what we thought would be great today would be to just start off with getting a sense, like if you'd be willing to put into the chat, what is your MBTI type? We're really curious to see who is being attracted to this kind of work. And then also, what is it that you love about MBTI? What do you think is most powerful about it? And what are the limitations of it? What is something that you struggle with? And I'll just give people a moment to consider that, and we'll read a few of them from the chat. So I see, and yeah, if you know your Enneagram type, please put it in. That would be great. So we've got an ENFJ, Enneagram 9. Yep, the E/INFP. These are coming even faster. So we're getting we know our types. We're putting that in pretty quickly. So I'll let you guys skim the chat. I won't read them all here. I'm waiting for our first sensor. Do we have any sensors here? This seems to be a really, oh, there we go. An ISTP. Welcome, Graham. And yeah, and then we got Adrian with his double X. I will testify to that. I can't type Adrian. Yeah, and so we've got all of our summary of typology here. So now, would anybody be willing to either come off mute or put into the chat? It seems like we love MBTI. Is that, you know, is there anybody here who's like, I actually hate this tool, but I came to this table today just for some other random reason? I'd love to hear that too. Did we all love it? MBTI lovers here? Okay, cool. Yeah, Adrian.
Can it be a love and a hate relationship with the tool?
And what do you hate about it, Adrian? Because yeah, what do you love and hate? Get the ball rolling for us.
So it's a very interesting tool to get on that reflection path, and I love it. And the more I dive into it, the more I'm confused, for example, about my type and stuff like this. But I do see the beauty in the dynamics, you know, that comes with MBTI when we look at cognitive functions and you know, like the hero function compared to the child, the inner child, stuff like this. And so I feel like sometimes I'm a bit lost in MBTI, and at the same time I'm so attached to it for some reason.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think for all of us, I mean, we're intuitives. I think we're pretty, many of us, I think we're pretty used to living in this floaty space where we can be like, yes, and, you know, that's how it sort of lives in me. But I'm seeing here that a couple people have popped in that there's somebody who loves Sachi, that you love the utility and quickly understanding others, but the struggle is the barrier to entry for others to understand deeply. Yes, what I think I'm hearing you say here is that sometimes we take a 16 personalities test or something, and you get a type, and people are like, oh, I'm done because I found like 1 or 2 features that I become attached to and align with my ego ideal, and we don't really use it for deeper shadow work. Is that what you were saying, Sachi, or do you want to add anything to that? And I don't know if people are where they can speak. If people don't answer, I'll assume that it's not, you either don't want to speak.
I can pipe in. that, and I think a lot of people stay very surface level in their understanding, and I just want to have those juicier conversations. And people are like, well, you're a T, so we're never going to meet eye to eye on this. And I'm like,
Right.
well, we use the same function of T though.
Right. Yeah. And so what I'm also hearing in that statement is that typology is awesome. And sometimes we use it to label each other, or we're making assumptions, or we're projecting things that may not actually be true at all. And so we're missing the uniqueness of our type's expression. And so I like to describe type as like a color wheel, where, you look at red and you look at green, and you know that one is red and you know that one is green. But if I say I'm going to paint my room green, would you hand me the color that I'm thinking of inside of my mind? The likelihood that we're going to get the same green, I would say 0, because how many million shades of green are there? So it's very important to know that this, to be trite, it's a map, it's not the territory. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Sort of seeing from here too, that, yeah. Okay. A framework and language to describe patterns. Yes. Shorthand. I love that about it. I find Jungian cognitive functions genuinely useful for understanding people and adapting the way I communicate with them. More critical of the MBTI framework itself, which I find too reductive. Raphael, I think that we are a strong cognitive function group here. I'm just curious, is there anybody that disagrees with Raphael's stance, or is that a shared reality for most of us here? Okay, I'm seeing a shared reality. Cool. Yeah, inordinate amount of time spent on identifying type, rarely get to the benefits of accessing remedial measures for trigger and stress. So yes, it's like we can spend endless hours describing nuances of type, and we don't actually get to, okay, so now how are we going to use this? Like, what difference does it make? Why does it even matter? Because in a way, I love the image of narcissists. It's like narcissism, right? When we get so in love with our type structure that all we do is read about, this is how I am because this is my type. Okay, well, why did you even want to know how you are? Is that because in certain areas of life, you might not find it as comfortable as other people do, and you're trying to understand why you don't quite see it the way everybody else does? And guess what? We still have to live in the world. There are people, and we have to figure out like how we're going to engage with each other. So often we don't have that willingness to get out of our own way, to realize, as Alan Watts said, that the self that we take ourselves to be is nothing more than a collection of habits. And why do we have these habits? We have these habits because we come out of the box with a certain neurobiology that predisposes us to having a certain temperament. That's been well studied. We know that that's true. And then we have parents, and we have experiences, and we have a world that then is going to shape us, kind of like clay or something going through a sculptor's hand to become this self. But that's simply because these were survival strategies that made sense during our development. And then we come to identify with them as this is me. And I don't know how many of you are midlife like me. I'm 52. So I'm like right in that sweet spot of basically unpacking and saying, wow, all these habitual ways of being have gotten me here. Thank you for the ways you've helped me. And I'm now aware of all the ways you've sabotaged me. And I would love to integrate those shadow functions. I would love to practice a different way of being. And how can I start to live more fully, have less self-limiting beliefs, and really connect with the world of possibility, and come back to beginner's mind and say, what if I didn't have any of these habits? Then what would I do? And who would I be? But we know, because of neuroplasticity, that we have to practice all of that. So I want to make sure I'm sticking to my agenda, because as any good, any dumb, I can lose that. And I think that, does anybody else want to share anything else about, yes, okay. Should I move into the open conversation questions, Adrian?
Yeah, I was thinking that could be interesting. Like, I think I know most of you, and most of you, you guys have amazing experiences and background and relationship to MBTI. I would be quite interested to hear about your experience, where you come from, how you want to use MBTI, stuff like this. Maybe we can play a small game, like let's imagine I have a ball and I'm gonna throw it to someone. And when you receive it, feel free to introduce yourself. We have quite some limited time, so try to keep it short. But well, feel free to share whatever you want. If you receive the ball and you don't feel like sharing, just throw the ball back to someone else. All right. And
You can type in the chat too if you're more of a chatter than a speaking to this person. Either both are welcome. Thanks, Adrian.
and yeah, and who wants to receive the first ball? And I might name someone. We'll see. Edward? Okay. Edward was first. Sorry, Sachi. Yeah, Edward, go on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Edward. Yeah, I'm INFJ. I'm very interested in the cognitive functions aspect. Specifically, I'm very interested in the shadow work side of this, because oh, this describes me like that. I think that's really cool. It's like you have, especially in the neuroscience, like you get the evidence as to, oh, yeah, these traits do line up with me. This is resonating, and it's like it'd be cool to get some kind of visualization of a report. It's like, oh, well, these are the areas where I'm a little less. I'm paying attention to this aspect of the world less. And although, of course, then it came to my mind, it's like, well, I don't want people to feel bad about themselves saying, oh, I'm not good at these things. So it's like, I don't know, it's like somehow translating that into some kind of coaching is like, okay, well, we can work with this, or I don't know how to describe it once you get the data, but I thought that'd be fascinating.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And can you keep the ball going, Edward? Who do you want to send it to? Pick a name.
And put your hands up with the ball. Like, yeah.
Or ask for the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, Sashi, yeah.
I thought we were supposed to try to catch the ball, so here I am. In real life, wouldn't have caught the ball. But I'm Sachi. I work with EEG with unwell people. So I really like the utility of MBTI and cognitive function specifically to traverse that. I know some other models probably focus more on like maybe like a trauma pattern or something that might be more real and available for someone like in a moment of their life. And I think that MBTI does a really good job of, across your life and how things could look if you are unhealthy, healthy. So I like that aspect of it. And like Cara, reading a whole bunch of EEGs, but I read them in such a different way because I see people who are unwell. And kind of maybe just trying to get back to baseline health rather than, grow a little bit more on top of that. But yeah, I definitely have more things to ask Andreas, so I'll probably get in touch with you at some point. But yeah, that's my intro. I'd love to toss to someone if they're ready.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Sachi.
Yes, I would like to briefly mention.
The internet connection is a bit lagging, Andres, if you're on Wi-Fi. And Sachi, and for those who want, so today is the first conversation to get to know each other. There will be a first workshop around September 16th, probably same time, like in 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And we will get to dive into questions a lot more if you want. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So should we move into, Jessica,
I'm
please.
Jessica. So yes, I'm a coach and I coach people based on personality and attachment styles. So Cara, everything you were saying about, the conditioning from early life, that's something that, I heavily focus on. And I don't yet work with EEG, but I'm super interested in it. And it feels like, this is the kind of right time for me. And I run the company with my sister Lou. So we used to run a personality type dating app. That's how, I got into all of this more officially. And I'm interested in it for several different reasons. So personally, it's like for my own growth, what are the highest leverage points for growth for me. Secondly, for my individual coaching clients, like quite a lot of them are INTJs, ENTJs, they like metrics, they like data. So to kind of see that improvement, I think would be very appealing to them. But also to, like, if there was a way of improving the coaching method or like drilling down into things like more effectively, that could be super helpful as well. And then, yeah, in terms of couples, I don't work with couples at the moment, like together, but I think there could be real interest, a little bit like Andreas was saying. I think through the coaching method, it's quite easy to pinpoint the triggers, or that's not a struggle like for couples in relationships. But like the more nuanced things like expectations around communication, like the things that are a bit harder to bring to the surface, that could be super helpful. Yeah, so yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my clients love data too. I'm a medical doctor, so I'm
Yeah.
drawing blood and labs, and people like want to see that stuff.
Yes.
They love to see their neuromarkers, and then they love to see where their neuromarker is compared to their partner's neuromarker. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, yes, I know we're completely different here. And we can celebrate both how that allows us to get the full view, but also it's a challenge when we're not coming from the same perspective. So yeah, you're going to love this tool. The archetyper and the way that you can put couples in is so fun. You'd absolutely love it.
Yeah, it sounds really cool.
Yeah. And I see here, as an Enneagram 9, I forget my purposes and reasons, but I'm mostly interested in using type for spiritual metaphysical reasons. I like using it for learning more about consciousness and helping people understand the links between the mind-body complex. The best way I can help people is through teaching yoga and meditation and slipping in type within that framework. I love that, because one of the things that I know we're interested as a team is even how type manifests in the body. Type manifests in our speech patterns. Type manifests in our facial structure, because we hold certain tension patterns that over the decades we just start to see. So I'm just noting, Adrian, that in terms of timing, we're at the place where we were going to do like a use case, but we also want to make sure that we get to hear from people. If anything was possible with this tool, like what would you go for? Like what do you want? We've heard from some people, but before we show you like a little sneak peek at like what we can do with this product, which is what we were hoping to have time for, what's most important is to hear your voices, any questions that would get you to come back for more, and also any ideas about what is it that you're wanting that led you here, that we're hoping that we can support you with.
Here, I'll jump in.
Oh yeah, go for it. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. So with the you're talking like specifically like the EEG results portal and everything, correct?
I mean, yeah. What did that question bring up for you? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, the portal was interesting, but I felt like there was so much more data that could have been extracted from it. So I actually talked to Darren here in New York, who did mine, and I got him to send me like the raw data file, and I broke it into multiple chunks and then used ChatGPT to analyze the raw data file compared with the results within the portal. And I learned so much more there of like, okay, like what signals are switching when, like which like waves are turning on and off when, and then you can see the correlates, and it's like, oh, okay, I have like a either all on or all off state, and there's like no middle ground. And this is interesting because I need to figure out how to, modulate that better. So there was just, the portal was cool, but there wasn't a whole lot of like, what can I do with this information? And just with the extreme amount of data collected, there could be a lot more that's explained of like, this is how you're functioning and this is how to improve it, especially if we're seeing the firing patterns in certain states. So like, for example, if someone is, I don't know, highly active in a meditative state, for example, that could be indicative of certain things. And then we can use that information to tell those people, hey, we see this with this firing pattern. These are ways that you can actually help yourself to get into a meditative state better, or something like that. Just as an example.
Yeah, thank you so much, Graham. You're kind of leading us right into what we want to share, because the protocol, so first of all, you're naming that there are things in the raw data file that are super helpful. The one thing I want to caution is that in the raw data file, you have to make sure that that's also cleaned of any artifact. And this is one of the things Andreas mentioned, is that we're doing resting state data, which people just sit with their eyes closed. They never speak during the test. They never write during the test. Their eyes don't open during the test. So we have a new protocol that's kind of, and a new portal. And when you say the portal, I'm not sure if you've seen the new thing, which I think Adrian's going to share with us shortly. So Adrian, go ahead.
Okay. I will share something. Just bouncing on what you were saying, Graham, it's really interesting what you share. It is indeed something we've struggled with in the past. We had lots of information. What do we do with it? And that's one reason I'm really excited, like chatting with you today, because you guys all have like different experiences. And if you can look at together where we want to take this, that would be amazing. Like from that foundation that Andreas presented, these neuromarkers, we can do so many things. And I can give you one example, and you'll find this on the website. I can give you one example of what that could look like, or what that looks like today, actually. What am I sharing? What? Give me a second. So today we have analysis like or reports like these, where you take all the crazy data from the brain and you put it side by side with a questionnaire, and you get that kind of picture. But you also get to use, once you use AI and stuff like this, you can easily draw insights, like giving simple descriptions to feel seen and to feel validated, but also to highlight what are the top features in your brain, what stands out the most, stuff like this. That's, for example, where someone stands on something we call sensory frequency, like how often the brain goes to that sensory mode. And so for that person being far to the left or right, I can never tell these two, they would be quite on the extremes. And these have meanings. And the cool part, I think, Graham, is what you said, like when we get these and we mix it with interpretation, AI and stuff like this, I've tried also taking that kind of data that has been, curated, where we filtered out the noise and stuff like this. You can give it and ask questions like, if I was to date someone, like, what would that person be like? Who should I date? That's just one example, to play with. But the crazy part is the description that it brings is actually very often the description of the boyfriend or girlfriend of that person. And it has no information about the people when you do that. So just to say that what we have today is some crazy neuromarker measures, and we can use that to play with whatever we want regarding MBTI, like as long as it serves someone's need. Other things we have are stuff like this. It can bring up themes about like perception gaps and stuff like this. That's what we would see here. I'm not gonna get into details too much because it's time is flying already. Yeah, I would love to hear a bit more about what you go for today. I guess you guys could be anywhere today, and you chose to be here. I'd love to hear what brought you to this place, if you don't mind. And I can keep sharing too.
If I can, I hope you all hear me, correct?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. So I would like to come back to MBTI and then get to the current question. So I see MBTI as a package that has potential wisdom, but it seems to be not that great not that well defined, right? I guess we all have different ideas about MBTI, so nobody really knows what's inside it. So the obvious point of like linking the EEGs to MBTI would be, so MBTI needs a key, right? So what is your type? This is what this package, what this potential wisdom is in a way limited to, like knowing the type. So it would be obvious to know the type. But I think this is just like a small step actually, because I think when you are able to get the correlation, maybe also MBTI, the knowledge that is already inside this weird box, might also help to interpret the neuromarkers in the end. So it might then also boost what you are doing right now. And on the other side, if you then advance further, in the end, I guess nobody needs MBTI anymore, because in the most extreme, the most developed version, I mean, everything is taking place in the brain. Everything is some kind of activity, right? And if one would get there, like completely understanding the brain and all the activities, then nobody would care for the system anymore and what letters and functions are behind it, because this would be the truth. Although this seems like, I guess this is like very, very far in the future. And maybe Andreas, maybe I can also give you a question. So you have 50 neuromarkers now. What would you guess how many neuromarkers there would be? You could imagine, because you saw the development over the last years, I guess. So what do you think? How many neuromarkers you could use will be there in 5 years?
Yeah, thank you for the highlighting. I hope my internet connection is now good. Yeah, Christopher already wrote in, but the psyche is not the brain. Yeah, I think we can. It's in the future, maybe we'll be able to look at different thoughts and so on, and maybe understand the brain better. Now we're not yet there. Also not with our analysis. That's unfortunate the case. What I did is I selected these markers first of all in a way to have a very broad view of the brain. So we're measuring complexity, we're measuring traveling waves, we're measuring microstates, we're measuring coherence, and we're measuring different networks. So I really tried to take the most modern way of analyzing the brain, so that we have different fingerprints to get maximum variety. Yes, and that's how I decided to go. If I found any hint of it to be linked to personality, from my point of view, some markers are more exciting than others. The internal modeling marker that I described before, for example, is insanely exciting. So it's not just that it's linked to openness. So there are new papers showing that people who have these strong waves traveling to the back, they follow more their priors in their head. So the brain is constantly creating predictions. And if you have these waves traveling back constantly, means you inhibit the sensory input coming from the sensory areas to the front. So this is in a psychological case, or like a psychotic case, this is linked to schizophrenia in a clinical population, okay, not in healthy people. So it means like people who have this very high, they have a strong internal world, and they're very often, irregardless of executing something, they live in their head. And this is extremely exciting, because it could be that you are more fearful, but it could also be that you have a more stronger visualization of pursuing your goals. So neuromarker need to be seen in this way. Today we can do nothing in order to understand. We need to use the psyche to. Without it, it's difficult. So most of it turns out in the reflection. I don't know if we'll add new neuromarker. I think so. I don't know how many, that I cannot tell you right now, but I will always try to keep everything up to date.
Yeah. Cool. And one thing I would like to mention, like in my personal experience with these neuromarkers, I looked at especially introversion, extroversion, because that was not so clear for me. And some neuromarkers that really helped me make sense. You know, when you mentioned that internal modeling, that inner imagination, stuff like this, like when you combine these different facets, these different stories, that really helped me make sense of my actual experience, because as I was reading the results, I could feel in my body, you know, what was happening. You know, I went from labels to actually feeling something. And I thought, well, I learned so much from it can really help bring nuances, you know, to these labels that we use in MBTI, for example. And when I see all these, all these neuromarkers, I wonder. I feel like there is something we could do with the MBTI, like we've done with the Big Five, or like what you've done with the brain archetypes. Andreas, looking at different spectrums. I wonder what kind of problem do we want to solve? Like if we look at creating something together, what exactly do we solve for people using brain imaging and MBTI? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Yes,
Just
Carlson.
for 1 minute, Adrian, just to like pull this to the MBTI, like this internal modeling marker in an intuitive, our suspicion is that most intuitives have probably above average internal modeling. But is that true? We're not 100% sure yet. So when we're working with a community like this, who really has a pretty good sense of, am I intuitive or am I a sensor? Or if you're really down the middle, then we might expect that your Z-score is going to be 0 there. You kind of can be of the sensing world and of the intuiting world. It might be more of a fuzzy zone for you. But if you're like super strongly intuitive, we all know that coming down to the earth and functioning on this sensory plane is our challenge. Whereas if you're a super strong sensor, getting into the imaginary, visionary, internal modeling thing of something that's not concrete in your hands, this is one example of how this neuromarker we believe is going to be directly related to MBTI, but we need partners like all of you who have expertise in this area to help us further understand that. And this is an example of a project that we're excited to see if there's any interest around, just one example. And should we have Andreas comment or Graham first? I'm not sure who was going to speak next.
Graham can speak here.
Is it Graham or Graham?
Graham, the H is silent.
Graham, sorry.
It's all good. It happens all the time. Sort of building off of what I was saying earlier, but like kind of better packaging it and pushing it a little further. I think like the opportunities for the growth and expansion of the platform really is the opportunities for personal growth and expansion with it. Like we've got this massive data sets. We understand like more or less what is correlated with each Myers-Briggs type. And so the thing that would be interesting is if you can take, okay, this is your Myers-Briggs type and this is your brain pattern scan. These are the inherent strengths and weaknesses we see compared to the other Myers-Briggs types of yours. And here are the paths to improve that. Like I had the conversation with Dr. Nardi after my scan, and because it's interesting, like in problem solving mode, I was like almost 100% left brain with one node on the right side. Whereas otherwise I was like the creative, like in the baseline, like the all of everything lit up. And so it's like I was basically trying to probe into Dr. Nardi of like, hey, how can I leverage more of this right brain stuff and activate those neurons in problem solving mode? Because not every problem is a left brain problem. And so just things like that of like, okay, we have these large data sets and we can tell what's inherently healthy or even an unhealthy type. And so that shows like which things that people can work on. Another thing that I thought of, kind of almost crossing fields a little bit. Many years ago, I did my 23andMe, like the whole genetic testing. And so I downloaded the raw data file and where it's just the ACTs and Gs and everything. Uploaded that into the AI, and I prefaced it. I was like, don't evaluate anything else you know about me, no prior chat history, literally only examine the data file and examine genes that would be associated with personality, things that would impact, a personality such as like adrenaline response, dopamine response, serotonin. And I left it as an open-ended prompt, anything else that it could do it. And I was like, what do you think is the Myers-Briggs type of the person with these genes? And it came back with ISTP or ISTJ. And I'm like, okay, that is a pretty scary high correlate. And so it would be interesting as well of like drawing in the ability to find what genes are potentially linked with certain traits or subtypes.
Are you familiar with Helen Fisher's work? Why Him, Why Her?
No, I'm not. Google it here.
might be interested in, I saw some nodding, and she was doing some of this work with functional MRI and it grouped people into explorers versus builders, negotiators versus directors, and you can totally see the cognitive functions, how they would play to that. So there's clearly biology, like you're saying, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg. And I just want to acknowledge Sachi's comment here in the chat that, you know, she's adding this element about the thalamus. Yes, of course, you know, and when we look at thalamic health, you know, how are we, and Sachi, I mean, this may not be the forum for that, but like, I'm so curious now, like, how do we know when we have a healthy thalamus? How do we know when we have an unhealthy thalamus? And what are all the factors that lead to a healthy or unhealthy thalamus? I mean, what a big topic. I don't think we have time for you to answer it now, but this is one of the reasons why we want to have this group, because there is so much wisdom in this room. And if we put these brains together around this common thread, which is neuroimaging and MBTI, I think that we could really light up the world with some insights here. So where do you want to go next, Adrian? I'm noticing we're getting towards the top of the hour. Or Andreas, do you want to say something first?
Yeah, I just have one comment. So I would love basically to have of every type, 10 or 30 EEG scans, because that would basically, or 10 EEG scans already, then we could compare them and compare the neuromarkers. That would just be insane. I'm curious if we get significant data, what the correlations are. And I hope we can get to there. And yes, that's basically my personal dream, to work with that. I don't know. And of course, if we find people who are excited about this too and have ideas, would be nice.
It's my dream too. I'd love that. So this is this hub model. You know, if we get these hubs situated where even if you don't own a CAP, you can get your client to go to the hub for a scan, and we're going to set up these hubs internationally. Then we're going to have the data bank, because we are wanting to have, you know, the biggest problem with type research is that people get mistyped. And so ways in the community that we can also improve our ability as typologists, and that we almost have peer-reviewed typings in a way, so that we can get a sense of what we're even calling these different functions. That's another thing that I know I'm really excited about, and that we want to bring to the work, is basically up-level typology services as well as how we use them, backed by science.
Yeah. All right. Before we close this space for today, so the idea is that we could have a few more workshops for if you guys are interested. I'm sensing it could be like 1 or 2 hours a month, something like that, to look at these questions around MBTI and brain imaging. And so the first workshop would be on the 16th, probably looking at what do we want to solve with all these, you know, MBTI and brain imaging. And just to take the temperature quickly, can you raise your hand if you guys would like to join the next one, like that first workshop? And feel free to keep it down. No big worries. Okay, cool.
Yay!
Okay, so we have a first workshop. Let's go. Yeah, so likely the 16th, and Kara, I'll let you introduce it also. You
Yeah.
are thinking we could have a live event?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other thing that we want to do is actually do like a case study and showing how we're using this tool to both support somebody on their type journey, as well as offer coaching around what the EEG is showing. So that's also something that I'm interested in setting up and facilitating. And what we're imagining is that person will not reveal what they believe their type is, and we can all just watch the interaction, and then before that person, who is a typologist themselves, reveals what their type is, we can even have some fun with physiognomy, like this is their speech pattern, this is what they look like, this is, you know, and if people know Enneagram, we'd love to pull that in too, because I use Enneagram, instinctual drives, and cognitive functions together, and to me that really gives a rich picture of an individual, and then to show how this tool comes in, and we will likely have people that disagree on aspects of this person's type, saying, no, I think that they're this or this. Well, now how do we bring in the neuroscience to help make sense of what each of us are seeing? Because you may know that parable of the elephant, where we've got all these experts saying, oh, it feels like a snake, or it feels like a tree trunk, or it feels like a fuzzy thing. They're all feeling different parts of the elephant because we're all coming from a unique perspective. So by bringing all of the perspectives we have here into a field, this is where we would love to develop a process that both uses typology and this tool and the coaching modality to really bring clarity and get everybody excited to scan people, get them referred to a hub, and get people in the network. So an example of what that might look like is also what we're looking to set up, if that interests you.
Cool. That sounds fun. I join you, Kara. All right. And
study and Adrian's like this whole group next step. So just to kind of, if there was any confusion, we're trying to set up 2 different meetings. One's going to be like this, more questions, exploration, evolution, and the other one will be a work group, like where there's an example for like a whole hour. Yeah.
Incubation. All right. Thank you, Carol. And there's one tool I just quickly want to share with you. It's one tool we start using that's called Mighty Networks. That's kind of like WhatsApp communities, but with a bit more control over your notifications and stuff like this. You are just getting started here. Sorry, it's in French. I don't know how to put it in English, but on your computer, it's probably going to be in English. And we'll send all the links by email, like today or tomorrow, something like that. And within that tool, sometimes when you sign up, you might be tempted to log in because you already have an account on Puzzlin. Make sure you sign up because it's a different system than the Puzzlin system. And so just to have a quick look, I'll log in. And so the idea is that we will have conversations there if you're interested. It's easy to make polls, to push our ID, stuff like this. And it's a simple tool that looks like that. You can start here to see what this is about. And we just have a simple space for conversations. Well, you can see Andreas and a few other topics. But that's where, if you guys want, you'll receive the link by email, and feel free to join for live conversations. We try to keep it light, to not add too much noise, basically, to your lives. And yeah, feel free to come. I think it can be a very interesting conversation. There is so much to create in that space. Yeah. Anybody
has a question?
Yeah.
Is it Mitt? Is that how you say your name?
Oh, no, I didn't have a question. I still have my hand raised. I'm interested in definitely doing another one of these.
Great. I just wanted to check to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks.
And yeah, I guess we can take, well, it's been 1 hour, but maybe we can take a few minutes if you guys have more questions before we close the space.
And if you have to drop off, it's okay. We are recording this. I think it will be shared with people that registered. If I'm understanding, Adrian, will people have access to the recording?
Yeah.
Okay. You have to go. We want to honor the time as well.
Yeah.
No offense if you have to go. Thank you for coming. But we'll stay on for a few more minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. Is there someone with an EEG headset who would like to record resting state, except Adrian and Kara, and want to forward with the recording the MBTI type? Who's excited to test this?
Who has a cap, first of all? Can we just see a hand of, I know Cindy does. Who else has a cap? I know Sachi does. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay. Good information.
Oh, Chris has one.
Okay.
Chris, yeah.
Yeah, Chris, if you want, by any chance, if you want to do resting state recording, if you're excited about this, maybe we can.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, So let's keep the conversation going. We'll probably meet on Wednesday, 16th September. And like we don't need the EEG device to look at that. All we need is to be here with our imagination and anything we want to create. Thank you for participating and for joining today. See you soon. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day. Have a good evening.